Good afternoon, everyone, whatever time of the day it is, wherever you are, and I hope you are enjoying a beautiful day. It is a beautiful day here in Ohio, and just one of those perfect spring days that's going more towards summer than spring. Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our denomination, Centers for Spiritual Living, had a radio show many years ago. And he always opened his radio show by saying, there's a power in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. And in his writings, he even said, and went on to say, there is a power in the universe greater than we are, and that we are using it. So today we're going to look at the power of intention and how we use this power that is God. And how when we really, really use this power that is God, amazing things happen. In the New Thought Dictionary, intention is defined as in working with mental law. Definite intention is necessary in the receptive attitude of the student as well as in his active processes. He or she must have a clear idea of what quality he desires to have fulfilled in himself or herself, and by their intention permit that quality to be developed through them. In this thing called life, Holmes says, just what is meant by your word? It means your conscious intention, your conscious direction, your conscious faith, and the acceptance that because of what you are doing, the power will flow through your words in the direction you give it. In the science of mind, we call this giving a treatment. That does not mean that we are holding thought. It does not mean that we are concentrating the power. It does not mean that we are willing something to happen. It does mean that we are providing a condition in our consciousness, which is our thought world, which permits power to flow through us. It will always flow through us when we provide the right conditions. Tomorrow would have been my mother's 88th birthday, and last week would have been my dad's 91st birthday. And my mother passed away in February. So this is the first birthday season, Mother's Day season that I have not had a parent. So needless to say, they have been on my mind a lot for the last week. But my mother's passing was probably one of the most amazing examples of the power of intention that I have ever seen or heard. My mom, about 6 months prior to her passing, would tell anyone who would listen that it had been 11 years since my dad died, and she was sure that he was quite aggravated at her because she hadn't showed up yet. And she became ill probably and she began to deteriorate quite a bit, but she became physically ill in late to mid-January. And she was about 1,200 miles from me, and my sister was her primary person of contact. She lived in independent living and was a very determined woman, which is a good way of saying she was the most stubborn person I ever met, maybe other than me. But this was in the middle of flu season, and she was supposed to go to the main living area every day to eat lunch. And the flu was so bad, they asked them that lived in the outlying buildings not to come into the building. And she would not allow them to bring her meal because she didn't think they were dressing warm enough coming from the building to bring it to her. So there's a good chance that for the last 10 days or so that she was there, she may have been living on oatmeal, which for her was okay, but doesn't sound too great, 3 meals a day. And she was very confused and quite congested. And I talked to my sister, and eventually we were both quite concerned. And this was in the process of my husband and I leaving the 1st of February on a 2-week cruise. And I had talked to my sister before I left, and my mother was refusing to go to the doctor. My sister would talk to her about eating more, and she informed my sister in no uncertain terms that when she wanted to eat, she would eat, and to just let her do her thing. And we talked about it, and my mom also wanted to be cremated and did not want any type of memorial service or funeral service, which, needless to say, we didn't necessarily go along with, but the cremation was fine. So we knew that we weren't going to do anything immediately after her passing if she passed in that time. And I truly did not believe that she would pass while I was gone. So I had talked to my sister, and I told my daughter, I said, don't call me if anything happens, because I don't know that my sister would have encouraged me to come help her even if I had been in the area. But my mother is saying, I'm not going to the doctor, leave me alone, basically. So on the Friday morning we actually got on the cruise ship, my sister went and found my mother in really bad shape, and my mother still was refusing to go to the doctor. But my sister was wise enough to get one of the nurses from the main building to come over, and she said she had to go. And so she gets to the hospital, and they admit her, and she has pneumonia, influenza B, and sepsis. And she is not responding to the antibiotic at all. She tells the doctor that she is done, that she is ready to leave this planet, and just to let her go. And at some point, she says this to she's been saying this to all of us for quite a while, and we are very willing to let her do what she needs to do. And at some point in this process, she starts trying to take the IVs out and taking the oxygen off and all that type of stuff. And my sister, and she also had the living will, and fortunately they honored it, and they began to take the stuff off of her. And they also said that she was not responding in any way to the antibiotics, and that if she recovered, she would be bedridden, which would not have been, it's never anybody's choice, and it certainly wouldn't have been hers. Through this process, she keeps telling my sister, I am going to be out of here by February the 5th. Now, she goes into the hospital on February the 2nd. And my sister's name is Jacqueline, and she's standing there thinking, okay, the antibiotic's not working, and you're not getting any better. So if you're out of here on February the 5th, it's probably going to be your final leaving from any place on this planet. But okay. So either Saturday morning or Sunday morning of that weekend that she was in the hospital, my nephew comes in, and he wakes her up. And she looks at him real funny, and she says, you don't look anything like I expected you to. And he said, Grandma, who do you think I am? And she looked at him, and she said, God. And they visited, and she would communicate with everyone but my sister. So my sister is just sure that my mom was mad at her when she passed. I don't think that was it. I think my mother was complete with my sister, and the people that she connected with were the ones that still needed to either be complete with her, or she needed to be complete with them. The doctor was agreeable to take everything off, and they moved her to what was called inpatient hospice at 7 o'clock on Sunday night. And she did not have to change rooms or anything. At 10:04 that evening, the same night, she passed. And they removed the body on February the 5th. To me, this is the power of intention. This is being absolutely clear in emotion, in intention, in confirmation, in any way you wanted it, that she was done on February the 5th. Now, I'm not saying that any of us need to go to this extreme, unless that's where you are in your life. But the clarity and the power and the passion she had in her intention, without directing that power, without begging it to do whatever she wanted it to do, but just being clear and allowing this power of the universe to work through her, is something that any of us can do in any situation. When you think about it, when we talk about the power of God, the power of the universe, that is the power that created the solar system. That is the power that created everything we see around us, including every fiber, every cell, every tissue of our being. And everything we see around us, everything we see in the night sky, everything we see on the Hubble telescope, all of it is the power of the universe at work. If we can concentrate, it's not the right word, if we can allow and loose that power in our life, we can do anything, including schedule the time we leave this earth. I've heard stories that Myrtle Fillmore, the night before, went around one evening and said goodbye to everyone in the staff and thanked them for their service, and laid that down that night and didn't wake up the next morning. She said her goodbyes, she was done, she left. There are people who do that. There are people who are able to focus, to clear their minds, to allow that power to work through them and for them in every moment. And that's what I'm honoring you in doing, is using that power to the best of your ability, to use it for whatever it is that you are wanting to work in your life. And when you think that you are doing that and things are not coming together the way you're wanting it to, you need to step back and say, okay, where am I throwing up the roadblocks? What is it time for me to let go of to allow this to manifest in my life at this moment? What am I to do? In this thing called life, Holmes says that some people can use the Lord's Prayer as a way to help them focus and release, and to help them loose this power, and to help them do whatever it is they need to do to use this power to the best of their ability. And it's not even using it. It's allowing it to work through us without putting up the floodgates, without putting up the locks that block us. As I've been talking about this, I keep seeing the locks on the Panama Canal and how it holds the water to the lake that the Panama Canal runs through as it brings the ships into it. And then as it raises it up from one level to the other, it holds back the water until it's time to allow the water to come in and fill that lock up, so it can raise it that 50 or 60, that probably 20 or 30 feet to that next level. And when our life is not manifesting or being experienced in the way that we want it to be, we've locked those gates. And we need to do whatever it takes to release whatever it is that's blocking the lock so that we rise up to that next level of power. So the power of intention, to me, is one of the most dynamic teachings of the New Thought movement and Centers for Spiritual Living. It's something that we all use either consciously or unconsciously. And my challenge to you over the next week is to watch your life, watch your thoughts, and see what you are experiencing as opposed to what your desire to experience is. And see where your blocks are. And open the gates and allow and let loose the power of the universe to work through and as your life in the way you desire it. Thank you.